There was a time in my life where I unintentionally became the happiest person I know. And I owe a lot of that to the fact that I learned not to take my thoughts so seriously. In fact, I learned that most of my thoughts were false. Actually, that the only thoughts that were true was the ones that felt good to me. Only the thoughts that felt good to me were my true thoughts. So let's have a little chat about how I came to realize that. Because I did not always look at my thoughts that way. I have been putting so much pride into my ability to think and analyze and use my thoughts in my life, which I should, but it's not until I learned to use my thoughts on purpose that I actually became happy. And this is me choosing to return to the happiest person I know by reminding myself of everything I knew back then. Because I forgot to use my thoughts on purpose for a while, but not anymore. And today's reminder, I owe a lot to Eckhart Tolle and his book, The Power of Now. That was the book that truly allowed me to get to know my thoughts and how they work. And most importantly, that I am not the thinker. I am not the person who thinks. I am not identified with my thoughts. I'm actually the person who observes the thinker. And the reason why that is such an important distinction is that I spent most of my life identifying with my thoughts, taking them as truths. And it didn't matter if they felt good or bad to me. If I thought it, it had to be the truth, right? But what I realized by the help of Eckhart Tolle was that if I am not my thoughts, I am something deeper than my thoughts. I am the person who observes my thoughts, which means my thoughts not being me means that my thoughts are just the result of where I grew up, how I grew up, my surroundings, and everything that has happened in the past, and how I unconsciously reacted to that. So it's not the truth. It's just based on my patterns of experience in the past, right? The reason why that is important, the reason why that made me realize that most of my thoughts are false is this. If I have this deeper version of me underneath my thoughts, if my thoughts are just a response to my surroundings and my past, there must be this deeper part of me that has always been me, regardless of my thoughts and my experiences. And realizing that made me also realize that my emotions, because this is deeply connected, my emotions stems from my thoughts. Any kind of thought about a subject will give me an automatic emotional response to that. But I just didn't notice that thought that came before the emotion, so I took all of my emotions as truths as well. But if I have this deeper part of me, the true part of me, that is not my thoughts, I like to call that my inner being. My emotions are just my inner guidance system telling me if what I am thinking about is aligned with what the inner me feels and knows. Which means if they feel good to me, if my thoughts give me emotions that feel good, that is aligned with the inner me, with what I truly know and believe. So those thoughts are true because they are true to me. If, however, my thoughts make me feel bad, it's my inner guidance system letting me know that my thoughts are the opposite or something else than what my inner being knows. So I can just use my emotions to tell if my thoughts are true or not. I can use my emotions to tell me whether or not I'm thinking about something that is aligned with the true me or the opposite of the true me. And that is massive. That is massive because that means, I'm going to be honest, most of the thoughts I had each and every day in most of my life were negative. They were worrying about something. They were dwelling on something. They were spiraling on something. And they didn't feel good to me. And I let that determine my happiness because that is what I know now. The way I feel is a direct result of my thoughts. And now that I know that most of my thoughts are false, I can just ignore them. I can disregard them and find the true equivalent of that thought. This might seem a bit out there, so I'm going to try to simplify it because I need this reminder. I need this reminder to return to the happiest version of me. So, let's do an everyday example. Say I felt like I don't have my life figured out. I don't have a clue what I'm doing and I should have had it all figured out by now. That was a thought I had. And it felt bad. But up until that point, I had just taken that thought as a truth. I should be certain about my life and know where I'm going by now. That was a truth for me because I had that thought so many times. So I thought it had to be true, right? But now that I realized most of my thoughts are just old programming that's not necessarily true, and even better, if they feel bad to me, they're not true because they are the opposite of my inner truth. I could then notice that this thought is making me feel bad, which must mean it's not true because my emotions are telling me whether or not what I'm thinking about is aligned with my truth or the opposite of it. So by knowing that, I could ask my inner being. I could say, okay, I'm realizing that this thought about where I am in my life does not feel good. So, inner being, if you feel differently than this thought, then give me an example of a lighter thought about this that is more aligned with you. And from there, I started getting these whole different thoughts that felt good to me. So then I would get, well, what is the point of watching a movie if you already know the end? Your life is like a movie. You're not supposed to know the end of it, because your life is what is going on while you're busy making plans for life. Every experience you've had, every moment in your life has given you clarity in something, has made you grow into something more, something bigger, has made you want more things. So I am constantly evolving and growing. Therefore, my life should not and cannot be all figured out by now, because tomorrow I will want something more. I will be something more. And my job is just to stay open to life and to listen to my emotional guiding system. Choose the thoughts that are true to me, and that will lead me into the exact paths where I'm supposed to go. Because life would be boring if everything was figured out. What would be the point of our life if we already knew how it would turn out and how it would end, you know? So it's very interesting, just by me realizing that bad feeling thoughts were fake, and then asking this person that is observing my thoughts, if this feels bad to me, it must mean that you, the true me, the inner being me, knows differently about this. So what is it you know that actually feels good about this? Wow. That means I don't have to go through my everyday life listening to my thoughts and just accepting them as reality, as truths. And I use this on everything. That's what, in the end, finally made me pick up my camera and record these videos, because I have always, ever since I became the happiest person I knew, unintentionally, by getting to know my thoughts, and more importantly, by learning how to use them on purpose, how to think on purpose, that was such a life-changing experience that I feel it is my responsibility, my desire to share that with as many as possible, because it's life-changing in a good way. But I forgot to use it after a while. I just went back to reacting and accepting all of my thoughts as true. So when I thought about me wanting to share this, I also thought, I'm not good enough, because I am great at coaching others, and I was great at coaching myself, but then I just forgot how to use it. So I'm not fully there. I'm not fully there. So how can I sit there and preach to all of these people the single most important life lesson without me fully using it every day, every minute myself? And that didn't feel good. So luckily, by knowing this, I would ask my inner being, I'm having these thoughts, these doubts about myself, about what I want to do, and they're not feeling good. So inner being, what is your truth? What is the opposite of these thoughts that's actually true to me? And I quickly got the answer that, well, the fact that I am going through this myself, using this on myself, reminding myself of everything is the fact, is the proof that I am good enough to do this, because I am meeting people where they are. People want real, raw, authentic sharing on this channel. They want to follow this journey so they can do it together with me, and that is also what I want. So actually, my inner being told me that if I had it all figured out, maybe I wouldn't be as good as talking to people about this, because that would put me in a different place and say, I know everything, this is why you should listen to me. But people don't learn by just listening to others. People learn by reflecting and internalizing these things and doing it together with people. And I want to do this together with people. So me second guessing my thought about me not being good enough to do this allowed my inner being to take space in my mind and answer me, what is the true thought and feeling about this subject? Because if any thought does not feel good to me, it is false. It is not aligned with what my true self knows. Girl, if you think about it yourself, how many typical thoughts do you keep repeating in your head every day, and you just accept them as truth? Maybe not consciously by saying, okay, this is the truth, but you accept them as truth because you allow them to make you feel bad each and every time you think about it. And then those false thoughts will determine how we feel about our days, how we feel about our lives. But they're not true. They are not true. Only the thoughts that feel good to you are aligned and truthful to your inner being. So the next time you notice feeling bad about any subject in your life, remember this conversation. I will remember this conversation. If your thoughts give you a bad feeling, they are the opposite of what you actually think and feel about this. So just try and ask yourself what your true thoughts about that is, and be surprised, because you have the answer. You just need to allow your true self, your inner being, to come up into the light more often. Invite it to take over your thoughts. Invite it to communicate with you. And I'm not talking about this woo-woo kind of person. I'm talking about yourself. You know that there is something inside you that is the true you. You actually know that you are not your thoughts. For example, gut feelings never comes from thinking. Gut feelings is something you just deep down know. That itself means that there must be this true version of you that is something more, something else than your thoughts. So choose to listen to it and ask it to tell you the truth, and you will be so much happier. That was today's lesson.